Hey guys, Gameboy 3800 here once again for a little bit of a belated vintage benchmark review. So to make up for that, I'm doing two at once. We're doing the Pentium 4 versus the Celeron M. Which one's got more grunt, which one's more efficient, and which of these big old machines is better to use. First, we're going to start off with the Sony Vaio. This is the PKG K25. It's got a 2.8 GHz Pentium 4, non-hyper-threaded. So this is a pretty fast Pentium 4 to not have any hyper-threading. And take a look at this machine. It is so thick. There's so much venting out the back. But it's also pretty sleek design. If you look at like the DVD drive, it's actually pretty well integrated. As for ports, we have audio on the left, we have USBs, LAN, PC, MCIA. On the front we have SD card reader, or that's going to be Sony memory card reader, a Wi-Fi toggle, the screen latch. On the right we have the battery door, and the very well integrated DVD drive. In the back we'll have phone line, display, and printer out, as well as a single USB looking like a vent. Next, we're going to move to the machine open to take a look at the keyboard. The keyboard itself is pretty good. It's a full size, no kind of scrunching or anything. The trackpad has a big left mouse button and a small right mouse button. And the left mouse button on this unit has gotten flimsy over the years, so it does kind of rattle, but it still works. There you can see, it's still got all the labels on it, even on the lid. And unlike most machines, this machine does not seem to have any media buttons up top. It's just a keyboard, just a computer, no nonsense. Trackpad feels pretty okay, it's not too bad. It's not great either though. It's not awful like the old Dell 250N with it being all jumpy and broken, but it's not standout either. Interestingly enough, this same chassis was used for like 10 other computer models, so you can find a lot of Sony Pentium 4 machines that look like this, but could be white, they could be blue, they could be silver. I think there's even the black one you could get. So there's a lot of chassis options with different configurations. Next, we're taking a look at the keyboard and the bottom of the machine. The bottom, you can see just how much venting there is. It's for two big fans and keeping all the processing cool. In the keyboard, you can see it is a standard layout. It's actually not too worn. This is a really good condition unit, like physically. And you can see the stickers, Pentium 4, ATI Radeon. I forget which card exactly it's got. It's not too great. This is more a like workman kind of machine. It's not a gaming machine at all. As for the rest of the specs, it's got no hard drive because it didn't come with one, but it did come with like the connectors. So I was able to get everything tested. It's got 480 megabytes of RAM. I tried putting more in, but it didn't want to boot. So 480 it is. And that's fine for Windows XP. That's what I use to benchmark on this. And right quick, we're going to take a look at the hinge system, because this is the most overbuilt hinge system that I have ever seen. I don't normally take machines apart for these benchmark reviews, but look at this. It's so over-engineered for something so simple. These hinges are never going to break. They're so well mounted and well placed. They can take a lot of force. And I just had to show you that. And turning the machine on, it's got a line on the screen. And like I said, no hard drive. So we just go straight to BIOS. And for whatever reason, the BIOS screen is like very small. But it's 480 megabytes of RAM. Not much else to show here. There is one line on the screen, but the screen itself is nice and bright otherwise. So let's move on to the next machine, since this doesn't have an operating system to boot into. Next up is a machine from out of state, in fact out of country. I got this from England. This is the Viglen Dossier XT. For whatever reason, English computer has a French name. I believe Dossier is like folder, so like notebook. Makes sense. Now let's take a look at this. The ports, we got USB, video outputs on the left. On the front we have speakers and all the audio outputs and the screen latch hinges. On the right we have a DVD drive, PCMCA, SD card, and a phone line. In the back we got a little bit of venting, parallel port, and some USBs. So nowhere near as much ports as the Sony, I don't think. Nowhere near as much venting either. But there is one flaw with this, and you might be able to see it there. The left hinge is starting to come apart. So clearly Sony engineered their machine to last, while Clevo in this case did not. The poor old M45C, the hinges are just falling apart. They still work, but I think it's going to need some super glue in the future. Take a look at it. It's starting to come apart even closed. It's not a good sign. Alright, let's take a look at it with it open here. Here we can see the keyboard. It is a UK layout, so it's got the tall enter key instead of the wide one, and it's got the pound sign and all that. And it took me a little bit of getting used to, but this keyboard actually is pretty good. It's the standard old Clevo Sega keyboard, so it actually is good to type on. No complaints. One odd thing about this machine, and you'll see it when we flip it over, is that it's got like a spot for a second fan, and like a spot to install something, but it's completely blank. Completely empty space inside this chassis. I'm not sure if that was to allow you to put in a video card module, or have that available as an option on the motherboard. But I'll tell you, it's certainly not installed on this machine, so it's just literally a big blank empty space. It's odd. Well, taking a look at the screen itself is nice and bright and big. And take a look at the touchpad. It's got a circle in the middle, and that's got four-way buttons so that you can easily navigate documents and stuff. And the top does have media keys, unlike the Sony. And it's also got the Wi-Fi toggle button up there as well. So both of these machines have like a physical Wi-Fi toggle, so that's pretty cool. Not all computers have that kind of option. Next we're going to take a look at the bottom and a closer look at the keyboard. Here we'll be able to see the naming on it, the Dossier XT. And here, the fan you see in the middle, that is no fan. There's nothing in that. It's hilarious. And then the panel to the right of it, literally nothing beneath it but blank motherboard. It's funny to look at. If it had any sort of video card, it'd be usable, but this one obviously didn't. It's a lower end model. I guess you could tell with the Celeron instead of a Pentium. But yeah, this is our first Celeron M/Pentium M based machine. I'm really curious to see how it's going to perform up against the Pentium 4s we've taken a look at so far. It's 1.4 gigahertz, but it is based on the much newer architecture. So of these two machines, which do you think is going to win? The 2.8 gigahertz ancient Pentium 4, or the much newer but lower clock speed Celeron M? Remember, going 2.8 gigahertz to 1.4, so literally half the clock speed for the Celeron. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at it powering on here. Powers up with a nice little screen of a M3EW machine, I think, from Clevo. And this does have Windows 7 on it, but for whatever reason, when I was trying to load it up for the B-roll here, it would blue screen. And it's got to be one of the drivers I installed. I just need to go into safe mode and disable it, I guess. But Windows 7, 1 gig of RAM, 40 gig hard drive. It ran pretty good. I was able to download all my drivers off its own internal card instead of having to do it on another computer. And here you can see the blue screen. I don't know exactly what happened, but it does just boot loop. And now we're going to go into the benchmarks. And here's the benchmarks at the two new computers at the bottom. We have the Sony, and we're going to compare it to the Dell 250N, second from the top. And we can see that 2.4 versus 2.8 gigahertz, that does show an improvement. We go from 0.32 to 0.35. And the Viglen, the Dossier, the Celeron M, unfortunately that's not able to beat either the Sony or the Dell 250N, which is a surprise to me. Even though it's much slower, I thought for sure that the much better architecture would allow it to pull ahead. So there must be some other cache thing going on with the Celeron having low cache compared to the Pentiums. Of course, it is way better than the HP ZT laptop we took a look at in the first episode. Those are both running at the same clock speed, yet we're running almost double the speed, from 0.18 to 0.30. Pretty insane gains from just a couple generations for mobile laptops. And that'll be it for now. I'm not sure what we will look at next time, but I think it'll be another Pentium M based machine so that we get some more Pentium M's in the show. Don't worry, I got plenty more Pentium 4s to take a look at, but for now let's start splitting up the chart. I'll see you in the future. Goodbye.